People are sick and tired of the same old. And on top of that, they bring a convention to make themselves even more money. So today, as Chicagoans, we said, let's prepare. We have settled with people. We are going to call people to march on the DNC with or without permits. Because that's what we need to do. We need to organize to unite the working class families, working class people that being pitched against each other, so oligarchs and billionaires continue to dehumanize.
I happen to agree with my Hamas, Palestinian, Cuban, El Salvadorian, Pakistani friend here. Listen, you can be anything you want nowadays. Just ask Kamala. Number one, completely agree. People are sick and tired of the same old. Of course, it's just the same old, same old. Same ad nauseum, same election cycle, same broken promises. Absolutely. But the second thing I agree with is that Democrats always result to violence and lawlessness. So thank you for pointing that out. Folks, topic of the show, Democrats have never cared about African Americans. Yes, I've said it. I've done it now. Oh no, whatever will I do? Find out in the next 15 seconds.
Do you want the truth? Are you tired of being so confused? You feel like you're more f***ed up than the lies on the evening news? Well, just step right in. We can talk about it all as friends.
Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show. Matthew Spear is my name. And that's Still Point, STIILPOINT. The Don't Unfriend Me band. Go check them out on iTunes, on Spotify, everywhere else music is sold. Sam Goody. Go give them a listen. They're amazing. They are a good group of dudes. The DNC. First of all, I have been challenged. Matt, when you first started, you would just talk. And you did it so well. And it was so entertaining. Yeah, it went on for hours, it seemed. And then I started writing more effectively when I started doing the news site. And it just became a monologue where I would write the things I was going to say. And I wouldn't necessarily just go off the cuff. So I'm going to try the cuff. I'm going to do notes and cuff. I got to keep me on the nipple for a while. I can't just jump completely off, but let's give it a try. Chicago, 1968, Democratic National Convention. Chaos erupted. And we are seeing the same thing in 2024. We all have heard the promises. Obama, the king of Chicago, said, oh, I'm from Chicago. I love Chicago. I love them Chicago Bulls. We're going to take care of them. We're going to go ahead and stop the crime. We're going to clean up. He didn't do anything. And just like every other Democratic president, they don't do anything in the inner cities. 90 years of Democratic rule in Chicago, and nothing's changed. 1968 saw uprising over the economy, over class status, over education, the poverty line, cost of food. Nothing's changed. It's the same thing. But here's the interesting thing. They're turning it into a police state now. They're putting up their fences. They're putting up their walls. They're going ahead and training 8,000 different authorities to watch this shit show take place, that the Democrats are going to go into a place of epic poverty, places that resemble Beirut or Detroit. And the rich elites are going to gather and celebrate on the corpses of dead African Americans. Listen, I'm saying stuff today that people may not like, and I don't care. I'm sick and tired. You're white. You don't get an opinion. Crap. That's not true. I grew up in Ventura, Oxnard, on the Ventura Avenue. Most of my friends were either black or Mexican, and I'm not going to be the white guy that says, hey, I've got a black friend. I'm going to say that I've lived below the poverty line for most of my life. I understand what it's like. I'm not there now, but it doesn't mean that I wasn't once before. But this is what's happening. And it's all resembling what we've seen before from 1968. They're putting a 10-block radius around the convention center in Chicago. Why? Well, because they anticipate riots. They anticipate people revolting against Democrat policy. And isn't this what it's supposed to be about? Isn't it supposed to be a platform of ideas that are presented to the people and the people get to decide? Well, we know the people don't get to decide. Why? Well, Kamala Harris was installed. They took Joe Biden, a sitting president, an incumbent president who had all intentions of running, and simply replaced him and said, you now have to love this African queen who's not even African. You've got to bow down to the person who couldn't even get 1% of the primary polling vote, let alone gain one primary vote from any state in the union. America's already repudiated Kamala Harris. They've already repudiated Joe Biden. People have less money. They're uneasy about the world. The geopolitics of the country and the world are such a mess. Look at Saudi Arabia. Look at the petrodollar. Take a look at Israel on the cusp of war in the Middle East. Look at Taiwan and China, Russia, Ukraine. Was it just 4 years ago that all of this was just something that would have been glimpsed in the future as maybe impossible with the way things were going? But that doesn't matter, because we can hate Donald Trump and you can say that the Democrats this time are going to do what they promised, but it's not true. And it's important to understand, and we're going to go through it when it comes to Chicago, because it was once one of the greatest cities in the U.S. The truth is, in Chicago, there has been a violent crime surge that has been increasing exponentially since 1968, but even before that. It's been up 18% in the last decade when it comes to carjackings, stabbings, violent crime, robbery, homicides, petty theft. It doesn't matter. All of these things have demonstrated an increase in 2023. But here's the thing. They're telling us that violent crime has gone down. Well, when you base it on the actual charges from the state prosecutors and the cities and district attorneys that actually bring these crimes to the forefront, those have plummeted, along with arrest rates. Arrests for violent crimes are down 43%. Only 10.8% of violent crimes resulted in arrests in 2023. What a shocking number. Have somebody break into your home or kill your loved one and have that type of failure. Why does anyone go ahead and vote for more of the same? Yet we see the same with Lori Lightfoot and the ilk just like her that continue to house as mayor. It doesn't make much sense. The highest murder rate we've seen, 45% higher than a decade ago in Chicago. And it may have went down a little bit, but once again, when you're not prosecuting that crime and you're not bringing charges, you're not investigating these murders and writing them off as gangland-style shootings, it's not quite the same thing as solving the problem. It remains one of the most dangerous cities in America. Police cuts, though. Leadership has cut 833 street cop vacancy jobs, despite 75% of voters wanting more police. How can 75% of the voter base, the constituents of that city, vote for more police, and Democrats have the gall to go ahead and add 8,000 to protect their meeting of the higher minds and the tight-ass elitists of the Democrat National Convention, but not protect the people of Chicago? I'd have to say it. I'm not a big fan of lawlessness and riots, but maybe I would do the same if I was in their position. Rising poverty, 17.2% poverty rate in 2023, higher than in 1960. I thought civil rights was supposed to address all this. Or is it the Great Society that LBJ wanted, which was to basically get minorities on the welfare tit? And those N-words will be voting for Democrats for the rest of their lives. LBJ wasn't a smart man, but that has been very true. Over 450,000 Chicagoans live in poverty. There's a dependency on welfare. Government programs trap people in poverty. We know this. There's nothing wrong with helping people, but when you make people dependent upon an income, they have no desire to go find it elsewhere. Why would they? It discourages work and self-improvement. This is what entitlement causes. One of the big things in Chicago is property's always been expensive. It's a booming city, or was at one point, but skyrocketing property taxes. They're up 77% in 20 years. They went up almost 44% in 1 year in 2022, and this is causing financial instability for residents. The thing is that people aren't trying to solve the problem. They're not there and staying there to make it better. The good people, the people who create the jobs, who create the businesses, who are law-abiding citizens, they're mass exodusing from Chicago. 32,000 residents have left just in 2022 alone. And it's because of the poor economic prospects and the high taxes, let alone the crime. There's no job creation. When the top 1% to 2% flee your city out of fear, higher taxes and strict regulations, it drives away more business. You can't tax people into prosperity. This just increases unemployment. But the declining quality of life and education, Chicago ranks poorly in livability with high crime and poor public services. They don't have the basic necessities like clean street and good water. The city has completely failed them. More importantly, Democrats have failed them. The high cost of living for food expenses are some of the highest in the nation. And the problem is that sends people to go to fast food and eat poorly, and it creates a fat city. One of the fattest, rivaling Texas and Dallas. Chicago is one of the fattest cities in America. It's kind of counterintuitive with the poverty and the amount of homelessness. You think people would, unfortunately, in that case, probably be thin and meek in their overall stature. But when you eat McDonald's and Burger King and Taco Bell are the only things in your neighborhoods, what choice do people have? The Democrats are going to pretend that they're going to solve all the problems. They're going to go ahead and ask you to remember that it wasn't Democrats that put you in chains or had the KKK represent them. Go ahead, the Daughters in the Confederacy rewriting history, that slavery was just about free labor and paid labor. Talk about Jim Crow laws or headhunting any American who went ahead and supported the slave and the Underground Railroads and the abolition movement. We can talk about the Tuskegee experiments, the Japanese internment camps. We can talk about the civil rights movement, how no desire to actually go ahead and help black people, just get them to be voting farms in modern-day slave plantations. And that's really what we have today. 37 out of the top 50 cities in the United States are democratically run, and they have the highest crime and poverty rate. Education is lackluster, but most importantly, black Americans are being murdered by each other. It's not the white man holding you down. Those things have been passed along society, and we had and fought that war in 1960, 1968. And honestly, I think we've come a long way. Yes, there's still racism. Yes, there's still prejudice. Yes, there can be systemic issues in our criminal justice system. All of these things are true. But today, more than ever, you have a chance to move forward. You have a chance to go ahead and live the American dream. And although it is not great as it once was, you can't go ahead and work a single job and raise an entire family. That's not just for black people. That's for white people too. Trust me, I'm one of them. But to sit here and say that you're going to continue to vote for the same policies that have put you in this place and blame a white person for it, well, most of those Democrats are white. Maybe it's not about skin color. It's not about your color. It's not about my color. It's not the nation's color. Red, white, and blue is really the most important thing we should be focused on. Maybe it's the policies. Maybe it's your political party. Maybe, just maybe, instead of going ahead and this election, blaming white people for your problems, because let's face it, we all have problems. Maybe we could change our focal point from not being white people, but specifically Democrat policy. After 90 years, what do you have to lose? As those powers on high gather together to tell you how they care about you, how they're going to visit your neighborhoods, how they're going to get in and stop the crime, they won't. They never do. And I can't promise you that Republicans will either. But the interesting thing is why don't you make your vote count by putting it up for grabs? Instead of doing a layup slam dunk into the Democrat basket every single election cycle, how about you just sit this one out? How about you go ahead and organize and say, we want a list of demands, and here are the 37 out of those top 50 cities, and this is what we want for our city. Otherwise, we're taking our vote elsewhere. That's the smart play, not continuing to do the same thing and expecting a different result. Democrats have never cared about African Americans. They blame Republicans for the problem. They made up that we're not the party of Lincoln, that we're full of racists. It wasn't 700,000 people who were claiming to be Democrat and wearing white hoods in our party. Yes, we have a few chuckleheads, but we're not your problem. The problem is you keep voting Democrat. Folks, thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Do me a favor, stop by thedumshow.com. Also, come and see us tonight at 7 o'clock. Olivia and I will be live at the DUM Show across all social media. Go over to Wimkin and watch us there. We're always live. It never goes down, and it's always free speech, which is the most important thing. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me Show.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The DUM Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.